Hello and welcome to today's video guide. My name is Abdel Jabbar from the Grandstream support. In this video, we will explore the Grandstream device management system and show you how you can use and take advantage of the features built into it. So first, for those of you who are not familiar with GDMS or have not used GDMS before, GDMS is the Grandstream cloud-based solution that allows you to provision, manage, monitor, and troubleshoot Grandstream devices from one centralized management interface. The service is hosted on AWS or Amazon Web Services, and it is free. You simply go to gdms.cloud and sign up for a free account. GDMS provides easy-to-use enterprise-level tools to manage Grandstream devices before, during, and after deployment. GDMS' primary goal is to simplify the mass provisioning of Grandstream devices, saving you time and resources. It offers the ability to plug and play devices without the need to unbox and manually configure each device. In addition, the site management functionality makes it easy for multi-site businesses to organize and manage their devices by site and subsites. And to ensure data security, GDMS uses bank-grade TLS, end-to-end encryption, two-way certificate verification, and encryption of all device information. There are other useful built-in tools that GDMS administrators can take advantage of, such as alert notification, task scheduling, remote diagnostics, and real-time monitoring. In the next slides, I will briefly explain how each of these features work. So mass provisioning of Grandstream devices is one of the major benefits of using Grandstream GDMS, because it saves you time and resources to deploy and configure a large number of devices. The templates configuration page on GDMS allows administrators to create templates that can be used to provision devices of the same model or in the same group. Additionally, the administrator can specify to which site or subsite to apply the template. One important thing to note here is that there is no limit to the number of devices that you can add and manage from your GDMS account. Also, GDMS supports configuration presets for plug and play and auto provisioning. By default, all supported Grandstream devices come with the ACS URL pointing to gdms.cloud. So when the device is unboxed and plugged in, it will automatically query GDMS to check if there is a configuration preset or a template for that device. Then GDMS will verify the availability of a configuration preset for that device based on the source MAC address in the ACS query. If there is one that matches the MAC address, GDMS will send the configuration file to the device. GDMS provides high scalability to accommodate an unlimited number of devices and sites. Using the GDMS site management feature, administrators can assign devices and templates to specific sites or locations. A sub-user can also be created and assign the role to manage specific site. And this is useful specifically in cases where the administrator wants to allow the client of specific site to have the device management and monitoring privileges for that specific site. GDMS includes strong security features to protect data traffic, including bank-grade TLS encryption, from end-to-end, two-way certificate verification, and encryption of all device information so that it cannot be obtained from the data storage. GDMS has an alert system that will trigger when certain conditions are fulfilled. The alerts are displayed on the interface of the GDMS account. and they can also be set up for email notification. So when a certain event takes place on the phone, GDMS will be notified, and if there is an email set up already, GDMS will send the alert to an email as an email notification to the GDMS account administrator. Troubleshooting issues has become more convenient with GDMS. The diagnostic tools allow administrators to check devices for issues, obtain network captures and syslog, and conduct pings and trace routes from the GDMS interface without the need to log in to the web interface of the physical phone. The GDMS interface offers multiple display options that are designed to help the account administrator monitor the status of deployed devices in real time. The task management tool allows users or administrators to schedule certain tasks, such as configuration updates, firmware upgrade, reboot, and factory reset. The task management page displays all queued and completed tasks that have been scheduled. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive in and show you how you can use these tools. If you are using GDMS for the first time, you will need to go to gdms.cloud and sign up for a free account. Once the registration is complete, an account activation email will be sent to the configured email address. Just validate the account in the email and it will take you back here to sign in. So I'm just going to use my username and password to log in. So when you log in, you will be presented with the dashboard, which provides an overview of the SIP account, devices and their status, as well as the sites and the number of organizations created under that GDMS account. So for here, for example, it tells me that there are 65 SIP accounts. 3 of them are registered, 1 of them is abnormal. The number of devices I have is 6. And 1 of them is offline. And then here we have the organizations. I have 2 organizations. I'm going to explain what an organization on GDMS means. And these are the organizations supported, the default one and the XYZ. If you go under device distribution, this is basically a map that is used to help you locate the devices provisioned from the GDMS. For example, here I have 2 phones in the Boston, Cambridge area, and 1 phone here, and another device here in LA, and another one in Vancouver. So I have 5 devices that are currently active on the GDMS account. And here, if you go under the device list, it's going to give you all the devices managed through the GDMS account. If you go under organizations, so this is a different concept. So earlier we talked about the site management that is handled within a single organization. GDMS also allows administrators to create multiple organizations and assign the organization to specific users for separate management. So in this example, we have the default organization with 2 other organizations, while the platform administrator has privilege to view and manage all the organizations and their devices. The XYZ and ABC administrators can only view and manage the devices in their assigned organization. So you have the devices, SIP servers, SIP account, task scheduling, site management, and other parameters are completely separated between different organizations. In other words, if the XYZ administrator logged in using her or his username and password, that person will be able to see only the devices and the sites and the SIP accounts and the SIP servers that are created for that organization. And this scenario specifically applies to installers who manage their clients' VoIP infrastructure, and at the same time they're providing their clients with access to their devices so they can view and manage them as well. So for this video, I'm just going to use the default organization. So if you go under here, under overview is basically the same thing as a dashboard, except that overview gives you information about the devices in that organization. So for this organization, I have 65 phones, SIP accounts, I'm sorry. I have 65 SIP accounts, 7 devices, and 5 total sites. So these are the sites that I have created for this organization. So when you log into GDMS for the first time and you want to start doing your configuration, the first place I would recommend to start with is under device, VoIP devices. First of all, add your devices to your account, and then you can start adding SIP accounts and assigning them to the devices and also creating the SIP servers. So as you can see here under the VoIP devices, I already have some devices here, and you can check their status. For example, this one is online, the other one, this one right here, is offline. Device will show offline if it's not connected to the internet, or if it's powered off, or the TR069 is disabled on the phone. It shows you also some other information. For example, this phone here has DND enabled. Then this phone here, we disabled the push notification. I'm going to talk about that in a few seconds. So when you want to add devices to the GDMS account, there are 2 ways how you can do that. There is the add device. This will allow you to add 1 device at a time. So we're just going to give it a name. For example, if this phone belongs to the receptionist, I'm just going to add the receptionist name. Then we add the MAC address. So I'm going to include my MAC address, 0E4D54. Then I paste the serial number. One thing to note here is that you must have both the MAC address and the serial number to add devices to your GDMS profile. If you're missing one or the other, GDMS is going to reject adding that device to your GDMS profile. Or if you add the MAC address and the serial number and they don't match, this will also result in rejecting adding that device to your profile. So I have included the MAC address and the serial number of my test unit. And there here you have the site, so you can choose which site you want to assign it to. If you have the sites already created, that's fine. You can go here. For example, in my case, I have few sites created. I can choose which one I want to assign it to. If you don't have the sites created yet, you can just choose the default one, then save and apply. And it's going to show you here which sites it belongs to. So the device has been added and it is online. One thing to note here is that you can always change the site to which this device is assigned to. I'm going to show you this in a moment. So this device is online, and it shows you the detected firmware version of the phone. There is no account assigned to this device, so let's go ahead and assign it an account. So I'm going to choose account 1, and let's pick this one here, save and apply the changes. So now that I applied the changes, you will notice that GDMS will automatically or will immediately push these changes to the phone, and it's going to show the provisioning status. So we're going to give it some time to finish the provisioning process. Next, we have the set parameters. So this is where basically you do your configuration, and you have two options. You can use the graphical user interface, which looks approximately similar to the web interface of the physical phone, or you can use the text editor, which basically uses the p-values. So let's go ahead and make some parameter changes using the graphical user interface. So let's say you want to change the registration expiration from 60 minutes to 4 minutes. You can change that one. One thing that you're going to notice, every change that you add through the graphical interface, GDMS will add a number. So for example, if I reduce this one to 20, it's going to add the number 2. So this way you know that under this tab, you have 2 changes that were made. So that makes it easy in case you made changes and you want to go back so you can revert those changes. You can always use these icons to see where you made those changes. Sometimes using the graphical user interface, you don't find all the features. The graphical provides you with the most of the feature. I would say 90% or probably 95% of the settings available on the physical phone, you can find them here using the graphical user interface. But just in case you're looking for a setting and you can't find it under the graphical user interface, you can always use the text editor to use the p-value associated with that device. So let's go to the web interface of the phone so I can show you how you can get the p-values for any setting that is not available under the graphical user interface. So let's say you are looking for the outbound proxy, and when you go to the graphical user interface, it's not available as an option. So let's just assume that, because that option might be there under the graphical user interface. So what I would do, I right click on the setting and I go to inspect element. Then I'm presented with some tags here with the values. So I'm just going to expand them. And then you will notice here that the p-value associated with the outbound proxy is 48. So I'm going to go back here to my GDMS account. Then I'm going to add the p-value 48. And if the outbound proxy is outbound proxy.proxy.com, I just added this way. This is one way of finding the p-values associated with the setting that you want to add to GDMS just by looking at the p-value. The other option is you can go with this one. Is way easier because you can have those templates handy. You just go to the Grandstream website and there's support, tools. You have the configuration templates. So when you download these templates, basically what you're going to have. Okay, so if I'm working with the GXP 3350, so if I click on it, it's going to give me the file that has the p-values associated with the settings on the phones. If I'm looking for outbound proxy, I just need to filter by outbound. And this is outbound proxy, and it shows that the p-value, is p48, which matches the one that we grabbed using the inspect element of the browser. So just take the value. For example, if it's 48, I'm going to take 48 and just put it right here for equal, then add the value that you want to assign to this to that setting. So let me go back here again to the graphical user interface. Then after you make those changes, just save and apply the changes. One thing to remember as well is every time you make changes, the GDMS will immediately push these changes to the device. So you're going to see the status changes to provisioning. So here earlier we assigned it extension 1014. You can see that now it's coming up and it is showing as registered. So now that we added one device at a time, the other option that you can do in case you have like 100 phones or 200 phones and you don't want to be adding them manually, you can use the import option available on GDMS. This option uses the CSV file. There is a template here in case you have the devices. You can use this template to fill it out with this information. So this is the information required. You have the MAC address, the serial number, the device name, and the site name that you would like to assign it to. So once you fill out this CSV file, then you can go back here and then import the CSV file to your GDMS profile. The other option that is available from the device configuration page is the device diagnostics. So in case this phone, for example, is experiencing issues like the user complains about dropping calls or audio issues, you can run the PCAP captures from here using the device diagnostics. So once I click on it, you will notice that it takes me to diagnostics. So here you have three options. You can use the ping trace route in case you want to test reachability. You can also use the syslog in case there's a problem with the phone and you want to run syslog. Or there's also the packet capture or the capture trace that you can run from GDMS. So just start the trace, then you can replicate the issue or ask the user to replicate the issue while you're running the trace. So when the user is done reproducing the issue, you can always come back here and the packet capture, and it's going to show up right here. So the GDMS will generate a file for you so you can download it and open the file with Wireshark so you can read all the information. The same thing applies to syslog. Once you end the session, it's going to show the logs here so you can download them and read them in a TXT format. So let's go back to the VoIP device configuration page. If you go here, if you hover over this tool, you have some other options like the device details. It gives you information about the serial number, the MAC address of the phone, the private IP address assigned to that device, the subnet mask, like all the network parameters associated with that device. Then you have the account status, which extension it's using and which SIP server it is using. Other options include operation logs, so you can access what happened to this phone. For example, I run a capture trace a moment ago, so it's going to show up here with the timestamp, and also it's going to give you the username, who made those changes, or who took the trace, and so basically it gives you detailed information about all the operations that took place on the phone. And this is very useful, especially for reporting and keeping track of the changes and who made the changes on the phone. There's also the task history, so in case you scheduled like a reboot or factory reset or firmware upgrade, it's going to give you the status with the time and who actually scheduled the firmware upgrade. There's also the edit device. Basically, edit device just allows you to edit the name and the site, so you can move that device to a different site. The other options is transfer device. So we talked about sites. Transfer device is when you want to transfer one device from like one organization to another organization. So this device is under the default organization. So if I click on transfer device, so since I only have two organizations, it's going to show up the XYZ. Then I can transfer that device from this organization to the other organization. Then it's going to ask you, do you want to sync corresponding SIP accounts? If the other organization, they're using a different SIP server and different SIP setting, I can just choose no, then click OK. If you are using one SIP server and the same SIP accounts for both organizations, then you can leave that one yes. So when you move the phone, it's going to keep the SIP account settings. So I'm not going to click OK because I want to save that one on the default organization. Then you have this option, disable push configuration, and you will notice that this device already has the icon. So once you enable that option, it's going to show an icon next to that device, and that means in case you have templates like configured on the phone, and when you push the configuration to the phone, this phone will not receive those changes. This is useful in case you don't want to add any more configuration to a specific device. You can disable the push configuration, and any changes made at the template or at the site or at the group level will not be pushed to that specific phone. There is also this option which is nice, synchronize device local configuration. Sometimes you go to a phone, you configure it manually, you like the configuration and you want to keep it, and then you decide to go to GDMS to manage the phone through GDMS, but at the same time you want to keep those changes that you made manually. The option synchronize device local configuration allows those manual, let me go back here again, allows those manually configured changes to be synced with your GDMS account. So every change that you made on your phone will sync with the device configuration on this page, so you have a matching configuration. In case you make a change on the GDMS device configuration that conflicts with the same setting on the phone that was done manually, the local configuration of the phone will override the change that was made through GDMS. And basically this is something that you only do once when you want to add the device to your GDMS account. Other options that you can use is reboot device or factory reset. You can do them from here, or in case you want to select a group of devices. For example, if I want to select all these, I can go to more. Then it gives me the same options, reboot device or factory reset. So let's say when you click on reboot, it's going to ask you, do you want to send an immediate request to the phones to reboot, or you want to schedule? So you can add a task here. So you can schedule a task to reboot these phones. And usually the task, it's going to ask you to choose a time span, which means, for example, here it's between 7:26 and 11:59 p.m. So you can choose like between 30 minutes or 25 minutes, especially when you are trying to reboot multiple devices at the same time. Then you have this option here, site assignment. So let's say I configured these devices, they work fine, but then I want to add them or move them to a different site. I just select them and I say site assignments, and I choose which site I would like to assign them to. For example, if these belong to the HVAC company, I can select the HVAC site and save and apply the changes. So another thing that you can do from here is the firmware upgrade. If you notice that there is a phone that is not on the latest firmware, and GDMS will usually show this icon to tell you that the firmware version is too low, you need to upgrade. So let's say I want to upgrade this phone, I can just select and click on upgrade firmware. The same thing, when you do that, this action, it's going to ask you to choose the firmware version. Then it's going to also ask you, do you want to send an immediate request to upgrade the phone now, or you want to schedule it, for example, when no one, at night when no one is using the phone. So this is about the device configuration. Next, let's move to VoIP accounts. You might notice the PBX device here. So this one is still in beta testing while I'm doing this video. And this one works only with the UCM 6300. In a nutshell, this option will allow users to add the UCM 6300 series to GDMS for remote access and management. in addition to managing new services that will be included in the UCM 6300. So let's go ahead and add some SIP servers. So as you can see, I have 5 SIP servers. You can add another SIP server, just give it a name, the IP address, the outbound proxy, the backup outbound proxy, and the voicemail feature code used. You can also select the DNS records, NAT traversal, NAT stun or keep alive, and then save and apply. It's very simple. You just add the information related to your SIP server. Then under SIP account, there are also 3 ways how you can add SIP accounts to your GDMS profile. You can add 1 SIP account at a time by adding the account name. Choose the SIP server from the list of the ones that you have already added under SIP server, and then you choose the user ID, authenticate ID. So let's say I'm going to use 1013, and this extension is for Mike. I can add the SIP password, and the voicemail feature code is going to be *97. If you know which device you would like to assign it to, you can do that. For example, I can assign it to the receptionist phone on the 2nd line. So this model is GXV3350. This is on the default site. So that means I have to go back here, select 2nd account. So I'm going to save and apply that change. Remember that the device configuration page also allows you to assign accounts. You can do them from the SIP account or under the device configuration page. The second option that you can use to add SIP accounts to your GDMS profile is using the import feature. This one is similar to the devices. It uses a CSV file that you need to fill out with the information like the SIP user ID, authenticate ID, SIP password, and some other information. Then you can import it using this tool here. The template is also available here, so you can download it, fill it out, and then import it. The third option is using the API of GDMS, and this one works with the UCM. For example, these extensions that you see with the UCM, these extensions were actually imported using the API on the UCM. I'm going to show you this at the end of this presentation to show you where you can get those settings and how you can get the extensions of the UCM synced with your GDMS account. So now that we created the SIP servers, SIP accounts, and we added the devices, the next thing would be the templates. The templates are very useful because they allow for auto provisioning and plug and play feature on the phones. So for example, if you see that I have a GRP 2613 template, I believe this is a model template. Yes, so this is a model template. And when you create a model template, you can apply it to all the sites, or you can specify which site you want to apply it to. So let's say this is for BVM limited. I can, for example, if this template includes only MPK configuration, I can just add the description to help me later understand what this template is about. So when you add these templates, every time there is a phone that connects to your network on that specific site, the GDMS will apply these changes automatically to the phone. You don't have to go to the phone and add the manual or do anything. As long as the phone is supported on GDMS and it's running the latest firmware version that is supported on GDMS, these changes in the model template will apply automatically to these phones in that specific site, which is the BVM limited. So now that we have the template, you just click on this icon, set parameters, so you can start adding the configuration changes that you would like to add to this template. So you just select which settings you want to add to this template, save and apply, and at the end you can just come here and click on push configuration updates to the phones. So when you click on the icon, it's going to ask you to select the devices that you want them to be notified of the changes. If you have many devices, you're going to have a long list that you can choose from. Since I only have one device that is currently available, so I'm going to select that one. Then it gives you the option: do you want to send the configuration push now, or you want to schedule a task to send it at a later time? So for example, if you schedule configuration updates, and let's call this one templates changes. So let's say I scheduled the time from 8:12 p.m. to 23:59 p.m. save and apply. So now if you go under task page, you're going to see that there is a task for pushing that configuration. So assume you made the changes, you scheduled the push configuration. If you come back here, if you remember that there is another setting that you need to add, and you make it and you save and apply the change, the GDMS will only push the changes that were made before you scheduled the task. So if you want to add other changes, make sure you remove the task that was scheduled, then create another or schedule another task, so that when the GDMS notifies the phone, it's going to notify them with the latest changes. So we talked about the model template, and we said that this applies to the case where you have a group of phones that belong to the same model template. There is another option, which is the group template. So if you go here and you create a group template, it's going to ask you to select a name. So let's say this is for Call Park on a group of phones. Then the type of phones, let's say I have group of GRP phones. I have GRP 2613, 14, 15. So just description, you can call it, for example, Call Park, then save and apply. If you have a configuration template or text file or an XML file, you can actually upload it here. So you don't have to go to the graphical user interface and add the changes. So I'm going to save this one. Then it's going to ask you here, after you select the group, it's going to ask you which devices do you want to send these configuration changes to. So I'm going to select the 2 GRP phones that I have, save and apply the changes. So whatever changes I just made will apply automatically to these 2 phones under the group template. Then from here I can add the changes, or I can use the text editor as I showed you earlier, or you can upload the CFG file, the one that I showed you under the group template. The third option is you can use the CFG template. So this option allows users to upload the custom configuration file to the GDMS platform and push the custom configuration file to the device. The CFG template is a little different than the group and model templates. So while the model template and group templates are designed for devices of the same model or same series, the CFG template is meant for a singular device that exists in GDMS. The CFG templates can be helpful to installers and service providers who want to move the XML configuration files from their provisioning servers to GDMS. You just download the configuration file from the provisioning server and then upload it to GDMS using this option. There are a couple of things to keep in mind. Only XML and TXT formats are supported for the uploaded custom configuration file, and the file name must use the device MAC address as stated right here. So basically the file name, if you're using the XML format, it should use the MAC address of the device .xml. So let's go ahead and try to upload one of the configurations that I have on my computer. So I have a TXT format here. So if I upload that one, It's going to ask me, do you want to send the update now? I can cancel, so I can decide when I want to send the update for that specific device. And if I go to my devices, this is the device that I'm planning to provision it with the custom configuration file. You can also use the XML format. So if I go to my TFTP server, I can pick this one. This is an XML document. So just remember the format, just use the MAC address without delimiters as the name of the file. Next, we move to the sites. So we talked about sites during the presentation. Sites basically allows you to assign devices to different locations that belong to the same organization. So let's say you have a dental office that has multiple branches. You can create a site for each branch, and then you can assign the phones to each branch and the main office. So this way you have an idea about where each phone is located. Adding sites is very simple. You just come here and you add the site. So let's say this is the Dallas branch office. I can call it, for example, Dallas branch office. And under description, you can just add any information that's going to help you understand what this site is for. You can include, for example, the address here in case you want to know where this branch office is located. So now I have another site, which is the Dallas branch office. In case you have a big site with multiple sites within the same site, you can create the subsite. You just select the main site. For example, this is in the Boston area. I can add another site. Let's say this is for Cambridge. I can just save and apply. Then I can add a subsite to the main site. You can go down 9 levels of subsites from the main site. In other words, you can create a subsite within a subsite up to 9 levels. In case you have many sites, let's say you have 100 sites and you want to upload them to the GDMS profile, you can use the same thing. Just download the template, fill it out with the information related to your sites, then import it back to GDMS. We had some examples with task scheduling. This is where you have access to all the tasks that have been scheduled. So there is one that is pending, and these are the ones that were scheduled for an earlier time. So success, and you see this one is stopped or timeout. So let's go ahead and create a task for the firmware upgrade. So I'm just going to give it a name, firmware upgrade, GRP 2616, for example. So the task, it's going to ask you, do you want to send the upgrade immediately or you want to schedule an upgrade? So you need to specify the time, or you want to make it recurring firmware upgrade. You can do that on a daily basis, which is not recommended, or you can do it once a week or once per month, and then you can specify the day. For example, I can tell GDMS to always upgrade the phones on the first day, or you can choose a day where nobody is using the phones, which is Saturday. I can tell it every 4th Saturday try to do the firmware upgrade. Then here I can choose the task, which is an upgrade firmware. It's going to ask me about the model, so I'm going to choose 2616. The firmware version, I want to choose the official one. Then I want to do a sequential upgrade. I want to upgrade all the phones at the same time, so I don't create a bottleneck, especially if my network is doesn't have like a high bandwidth. Then I can choose the version. For example, I can tell it all versions, make sure they upgrade to the latest one. Then here you can select the devices that you want to upgrade or you want to apply this task to. So in case you want to upgrade all the models like the GRP 2616 and the U profile, then you can choose all, or you can specify which phones using this option here from the list, or you can use the MAC address. The MAC address, basically you just enter the MAC address and you separate them with the comma. So I'm just going to use select device and I'm going to choose the one that I already have, then save and apply. So here it's going to ask you, please enter the amount of hours to run this task. So since I only have one phone, I'm just going to put 1 hour, save and apply. So now the task has been scheduled and it's going to show up here. I can always come back here, change it, or I can remove it, or I can access the task details just to remind myself of what this task is about. Then diagnostics, we talked about that earlier, how you can do that in case for example, this one right here, you can see that it's still doing the diagnosing. So I'm just going to stop this one using this icon. And then I can access those traces just by clicking on the view details. If it's syslog, it's going to show up here. So this one was about the package capture, so I can just come here and download it. So let me go back here one more time. So in case I have the MAC address of specific device that I would like to troubleshoot, I can just enter the MAC address and then start diagnostics. Then it's going to ask me, do you want syslog or PCAP capture? Just select the same way we did it earlier. Select the PCAP capture or syslog or ping trace route, then start the diagnostics. For PBX backup, this feature is still in beta at the time of making this recording. So let's go under resources, the firmware. So this is where you have access to all the firmware versions. And I usually use this page to know which devices are currently supported on the GDMS. So in case you have a phone model and you want to know whether it's supported on GDMS or not, you can always come to the firmware and then you can check this list. So for example, if you have a GXP 1600, you will not find it in the list here. So that's an indication that it is not supported on GDMS. So here it shows you the firmware version. So if I come here, I can download the firmware version without going to the Grandstream website and download the latest firmware version. Or I can use this option here to push the firmware upgrade from this page. Then I can select the phone that I want to upgrade from here, then upgrade now, or create a firmware upgrade schedule task. And the resources page. Now we do support provisioning files from GDMS. So if you go to upload files, it's going to ask you which file you want to upload. So the ones that we support right now is the ringtone. So in case you want to provision the phone with customized ringtone, you can upload it to GDMS, and later I'm going to show you where you can select this option. You can also select a picture. This is for the wallpaper on the phones, or you can choose the language pack. So let's say I have a ringtone that I would like to provision the phones with. One thing to pay attention is the type of supported extension format. So these are the, especially for the ringtone, we support the WAV formats in the MP3s. So let's click on this one. Then I can go to tools and then ringtones, and I can choose, for example, this one. And then I can upload it to my GDMS account, so I can use this ringtone to apply it to other phones. So save and apply. So now I have this ringtone here. If I want to apply it to a phone, I can go to device. Okay, then I can select, for example, let's look for 2616, which is this one here. Go to set parameters. set parameters. Then if you go under resource, this is where you can select the ringtone. So I can choose that ringtone so that I can upload it to the phone. Then save and apply the changes. Then GDMS will provision the phone with this ringtone that I just uploaded. Next, let's go to alerts. So during the presentation, I mentioned that you can configure GDMS to send the email notification in case there is a specific event that takes place on the GDMS. So under the alert page, you will find all the events that have taken place under your profile for all the devices. It gives you the MAC address and the type of event. For example, this one, reboot. Let's check if there are some other types of events. Device factory reset. So this is a different type of event. So let's go ahead and create the email notification for the alert settings. So when you go here, you choose the organization. This is especially useful. So in case you are trying to set up the alert email notification for the XYZ GDMS administrator, you can select the XYZ. So only events that are specific to that organization will be emailed to the subscriber. So I'm going to keep that one as the default. Then you can choose from the list of events that you would like to receive email notifications about. So for example, if this one is not a problem for me, I just want to know who factory reset the phone and who rebooted the phone. I can just select these two. Then I can select the subscribers. So let's say I just want to be the only one receiving email notification. I can just select my email address, or I can add the junior administrator so he can receive email notifications as well. Save and apply the changes. So now let's go and configure the message notification settings. So basically the alerts that you configure here are the ones that are going to be shown under this icon. So I'm going to go back to it. Let me close this. So if you hover over this icon, you will see all the events related to the one that you enabled under the settings that I just showed you. So every time there is an alert or an event that takes place on your GDMS account, it's going to show up right here. So I can clear them all and then go back here, and then I can select the type of events that I want the GDMS account to show under this icon. So I can, for example, select the reboot, device offline, and task failed, account registration failed. I can also add this one, and for the subscriber, you can also specify the ones that are going to be notified every time there is an event that takes place under here, or I can just remove the emails and save and apply the changes. So when it comes to channel option that is available under this menu, channel customers and service providers can obtain a list of purchased devices from the Grandstream ERP. And this list will allow the channel customer or service provider to quickly assign devices to sub-channel customers. And these customers will then be able to log in into their own GDMS profile to manage their devices. And it also allows the channel customer to manage devices, especially for the sub-channel customers. And one thing to note here is that channel customers and service providers will need to contact Grandstream to associate their GDMS account with an ERP account. And first of all, Grandstream needs to decide whether you qualify for this option. So the way you add sub-channels. Let's say I want to add the sub-channel here. It's going to ask me for the channel binding address. The way to get that information is under here, view my binding channel address. So I can copy this one, and then you can reset it. For example, if you provide this address to a provider, they want to change from that provider to a different provider, you can always come back here and reset the address, so you can use a different address with a different channel customer or service provider. So you copy this binding address, and then you send it to the service provider so that they can add it to their channel, and then they can add you as a sub channel to their GDMS profile. So let's say this is for XYZ company. So I already have a sub channel here, and the way it works, once I have my account synced with the ERP, I will see all the devices that I purchased through Grandstream, and from here I can select the devices, then I can assign them to my sub channel. Let's go to System, and the system provides us with the option to create users. So we noticed earlier that we have two organizations, so if I want to add a third organization, I just go to Organization. So to add a new organization, so I'm going to call this one ABC. Then I will assign the junior administrator as the administrator of this organization. Then you have this option, clone organization. If you want to create an organization with different templates, different phones, different SIP accounts and SIP servers, you can leave this one blank. But in case, let's say XYZ and ABC, they share the same SIP server and the same SIP accounts, I can clone the information from this organization to the ABC organization. Then I can choose, for example, if it's SIP account and server, group template or model template. If they're using different sites, then I can just leave that one and check. So it depends what type of information you want to clone to the new organization. And for the description, you can put any information just to remind you of what this organization is. So I can call it, for example, this is the ABC organization in Dallas. So I'm just going to save and apply the changes. So now I added a third organization. So if I go back here, I can see that the ABC was added. So now that we create the organization, the next thing would be to create the rule. You can assign a user to be the administrator of that organization just by adding a user. Then you can choose the role of admin. Sometimes you assign a monitoring role to one of the agents. So let's create one here. I believe I already have one for monitoring. Description, so this one is read only, which means the user would only have access to the list without having the privilege to make any changes. So I can select the account list, SIP server list, the device list, and the template list. So I'm just going to go ahead and change all the ones that has read only privilege. Then I can save and apply. This role already exists, so probably I want to call it monitors. Okay, so now I defined a role. You can create as many roles as you want, and the next step would be to create the user. So I'm going to add the user. Let's say this is only for monitor. The email address, I can call it, for example, abc.com. And the role, I'm going to choose the one that I just created, which is monitors. And I want this user to monitor the settings of the organization ABC. So when this user logs in, he or she will only have access to the information related to the ABC organization. I can add the second organization if I want to have this user monitor both organizations without having access to the default organization. So save and apply the changes. Next, system log. And the system log, you find information related to the operations and events that took place on your GDMS account. For example, I just created the user. It's going to show you the type of operation, who created the user, the source IP address where that person connected from, and also it's going to tell you the time that operation took place. Next, we have the API development. Earlier I mentioned that SIP accounts, you can create them manually by adding one at a time, or you can use a CSV file, or you can use the API. So I already have this UCM configured to sync the extensions, and they're here so that all the extensions created on the UCM will automatically sync with my GDMS profile. So if you go to system settings and the GDMS settings, so you make sure you enable this option, then you enter the username. This is the username that you use to log into your GDMS profile, and it needs to be the platform administrator. So I'm going to use the password associated with my GDMS username. The API ID, I get it from GDMS. This is the ID. And for the secret password, I get it from here. So I just copy and paste the information here, save and apply, and then I enter the IP address of the UCM. For example, if I want to assign those extensions to the XYZ, let's assume this PBX belongs to the XYZ company. I can choose the XYZ, then I can authenticate. Then it's going to tell me authentication successful, save and apply changes. Then go back to my GDMS profile, XYZ, then you will see that this UCM was synced automatically with my GDMS profile for the XYZ company. If you go under SIP accounts, you will see that all the SIP accounts now have synced automatically with my GDMS account for the XYZ company. So this is a nice way of adding extensions to your GDMS account, so you don't have to use the manual addition of SIP accounts. And finally, that brings us to the information page about GDMS. It allows you to view GDMS information, supported device models, and firmware requirements for each model. For example, here it tells you the GDMS version, which is 1.0.2.6, which is the latest at the time of doing this recording. You can also access the release notes. GDMS is also available as a free application on your iOS and Android devices, where you can manage all your devices, and you're basically going to have access to the same settings that are available from your web browser. You can also access the user manual for GDMS in case you want to query about other information. What's important is this information here at the bottom. Basically, it tells you the supported models on GDMS. So in case you want to know whether a specific model is supported on GDMS, you come to this page. So you have the audio devices, video devices, conference devices, which includes the GBC 3210. We have the ATAs as well, and the PBX device. So the PBX on the GDMS, we only support 6301, 6302 at the time of making this recording. And so let's go back here to the audio devices. So for example, if you have a GXP 2100 IP phone that is running an old firmware version, and you want to manage those GXP phones from GDMS, the minimum firmware version required is 1.0.11.2. So that is the latest one, available on the Grandstream website, and also available from GDMS. So when you upgrade your phone, sometimes you might have issues, like you upgrade the phone, but the phone is still not connecting to GDMS. That could be related to two reasons. Let me go back here to one of the phones. So even if this is GRP26, it's basically the same thing. It has the same configuration as the GXP2100 series. So the first thing is before support of GDMS on the GXP2100, the TR069 is disabled by default. Okay, so when you upgrade the phone, you need to come back here and check that you have this URL for the GDMS, which is https://acs.gdms.cloud, and also make sure, as I mentioned earlier, that the phone is actually using its MAC address. If you don't remember that information, or if you want to provision your phone with those settings, the other option that you can try is go to upgrade and provisioning, and under configuration page you're going to enable HTTPS. Then you enter this URL www.gdms.cloud.preset. Save and apply. So when you reboot the phone, this phone is going to query the GDMS configuration information from GDMS and apply it to your phone. And among the information that it's going to download from the GDMS cloud platform is the URL as well as the MAC address for the phone, and this information right here. And that wraps up this video guide on Grandstream device management system. I am Abdel Jabbar. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.